Boys and girls, welcome back to another video by yours truly. I want to talk about this topic that's been circulating amongst the Wuwa community because I think it's great news. No matter what type of specifics some of you guys are already tit for tatting about. Oh, he's not actually involved, Smack. It's his institution that he owns. No, he is involved. He's a consultant. Listen, guys. We all fight over the goofiest stuff. Who cares? The fact that Wuwa is investing in more resources to make their story have more depth, density, and take it from just having good structure to actually actualizing the concepts that they've been playing around with but hasn't necessarily expanded upon, or they've been taking too long to expand upon. The fact that we are moving the ball into a direction where they want this story to become more and more impactful to the consumer that's playing the game, and they want it to be a thing where everybody is always tuning into for the story, it's something to celebrate. It's something to celebrate. For those of you who are not in the know, I get it, deeply employed, some guy that is widely renowned for his impressive skills with the pen to world build, and in particular the science fiction genre. This guy has won a lot of awards. We're going to go over this here in a bit, but there was a video on Bilibili where he was caught discussing with the CEO of Wuthering Waves, Solon, in terms of a collaboration. Now, this is where the misinformation, according to everybody, can get a bit sticky. But just let me explain to you guys how crazy it is for people to try to nitpick on this. This is a video, right? Obviously it's on Bilibili. Comes over here to the West. Most of us don't speak Chinese, Mandarin, whatever you want to call it, whatever the language is they're speaking. We don't speak that. And so non-credible sources or just random profile pics on Twitter who do speak Chinese, they upload it and then they put their input or their interpretation of what this is. Because we don't speak Chinese, a lot of you guys are just trying to take what they say and you just go with it. And that is typically how the misinformation gets, spread out there. It's like your only source is the guy who speaks Chinese and he's the one who put it on Twitter. So that's all you can run with. But a long story short here is if we come over here to my bookmarks, I want to show you the person. I tried to bookmark as much as I can. So this is one of the people, right? They said Kuro Games and Liu Cixin. This is the guy, the author of Three Body Problem. This is a very renowned book across the world. I'll credit the source for this. It's not just coming out of my ass here. A lot of people really enjoyed this book. Have announced a strategic partnership where Liu Cixin will serve as a world building consultant for Wuthering Waves. And this is the example of what I'm talking about, right? This is 163,000 views. And there's a lot of those people who probably don't speak Chinese and they saw this person post this and they just go, they click on the link, they come over here to Bilibili and this is what they see. They're like, well, I don't speak Chinese. And so you're like, well, this guy, why would he lie? He's probably telling the truth. That's how it happens. It's not that deep to get all, wait, misinformation, guys. Let me show you this shit, because this is what's funny, right? It's a collaboration between the two entities, Beijing Yuanyu Science Fiction Future Technology Research Institute, holy Japanese for a title, in Kuro Games, rather than Liu Cixin and Wuthering Waves. And there is no confirmed info about Liu Cixin serving as the worldview consultant for Wuthering Waves. Do not spread unverified information. It's like, brother, can we just talk about how it's incredible that Kuro Games is in any capacity trying to expand upon their world building, which I believe is a heavily criticized element of the Wuwa storytelling. It's the fact that they have great concepts that are pre-existing in the game right now, but the expansion of those concepts are either dragging or lacking entirely. But the fact that they're now hiring people, this is the guy, by the way, who's goated, that are going to be involved in some capacity, be it directly consulting them or his institution that is an extension of his renown and ability to create good world building. It's a W, no matter how you spin it. One of the biggest criticisms in the gacha space is these developers, a lot of players feel like they're just milking the cow and they're not putting any money back into their game to improve the game. They're just putting money back into the game to keep it where it's at in quality. This is an example of them putting money back into the game to improve it past the current quality it's already at. Therefore, that's a W. You know what I mean? Check this out. He's a 9-time winner of China's Galaxy Award and has also received the 2015 Hugo Award for his novel, The Three Body Problem. I strongly recommend you guys check this out because real respectable people have given praise to this. Hideo Kojima our GOAT from Metal Gear Solid, or Death Stranding, if you like that. Big fan of the book. In fact, I'll show that here in a bit. But it's a 2008 novel by the Chinese hard science fiction author, this guy. It's the first novel in the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. The series portrays a fictional past, present, and future wherein Earth encounters an alien civilization. Let's just stop there. You can already see the overlap with Wuwa's world building, right? Rover, it comes from an alien civilization. Solaris 3 would be kind of where like Rover crashes down into this planet and he's trying to save this planet from happening. You can see how they could hire this guy. There's an overlapping. I'm sure they saw that vision and they're hiring him and his team, or not him directly, but his institution to try and expand upon those world building elements. But this is the dude. Now I brought up something else. Look at this. Hideo Kojima back in 2024. I've just finished watching through 8 episodes of Three Body Problem. So this book expanded and blew up so much that they ended up making a Netflix series on it and a whole movie on it, I believe, in China. And bro put a whole Japanese up in here, but he did it from a critical perspective. He was scrutinizing the movie and basically pointing out its flaws in a very constructive way because he's a big fan of the book. And he was saying that that movie didn't do that good of a job in terms of a reflection of the book, but it did good enough to where if you watched it, it maybe motivated you or inspired you to go and read the book, and that there is a W in and of itself. Another thing that Hideo Kojima said, just to give you some idea of how good the book is, I just received a copy of Cixin's new book, Ball Lightning, the prequel to Three Body Problem. So he liked it that much. Thank you. This is a big deal. I will read it at the end of the year. That was back in 2022. One thing you guys could do is you could just look up Liu Cixin on Twitter and go look at all the posts of fans, renowned figures, public figures praising this book, Three Body Problem. And you'll come to find out this dude actually is really good at what he does. But I did go to Reddit, and this is an interesting one. This is the good part of Reddit. This is where you go to Reddit and you can rely on Reddit, right? When you go to Reddit for like gacha talk and drama, not worth going to, bro. All right, deeply unemployed, very unwell people in the brains, talking about things that don't matter, throwing people under the bus, slandering names. Like, that's where I make fun of Reddit. This is the good part of Reddit, though. When you like look up Reddit because you're just trying to acquire information on stuff, these people tend to have a level head on their shoulders. They're just genuinely trying to have good conversation about things of common interest. I looked this up. This guy's Three Body Problem because I wanted to hear the feedback of people who read the book. This was one of the top comments, which I thought was great because I think it probably hits right on the money. He says, if you want a story with deep characters, this ain't it. If you want a story with a fluid and comprehensive plot, this ain't it. If you want a story that is speculative, thought-provoking, utilizes hard math and science terms and ideas to paint a world that is seemingly both real and yet fictional, so it's beautifully woven in science fiction with real world concepts and actually allows your brain to envision that reality. Those are always very strong, like telltale signs of good writing of science fiction. This is what you can expect. And this is what I want to talk to you guys about. Regardless of whether the Liu Cixin guy is directly consulting or it's his institution, which is an extension of his ability with the pen to cook, it's still great that Wuwa has hired an external entity that specializes in particular, not character development, right? Not plot twists, but world building. An element of Wuwa that I say exists, but only on a structural level. It hasn't been invoked into the world to the point where dozens of content creators are talking about the lore to the point where it's getting Elden Ring viewership in terms of lore, right? And I'm not saying that's because that's a high fucking barrier of entry. But what I mean is when you have great in-depth lore and world building in your game, the community grows in an inherent manner because it's just that good. Respectfully speaking, Wuwa is not there, not even close to being there, but they have the infrastructure. They have it. I took the liberty of bringing up some notepad and I just put out a couple of concepts just to give you guys an idea of the world building they already have. An example of world building elements, right? We got Solaris 3, that's the planet we're on. We got post-apocalyptic futuristic world. That's going to be a world building element. We got the Tethys system, predict and prevent, anticipate, and the lament. We got the Heliogyre, very similar to Tethys system concept, but it's for Lahai Roi. The Eye of the Exostrider, study the artificial sun, prevent void storms just like they prevent the Lament, help build a new sun as well. That's what it's also doing. You got the Sentinels, you got Frequency, which is the energy matter of Wuthering Waves. You got Lament, destruction and darkness. Tacit discords, human turned into monsters a lot of the times. Resonators, echoes, advanced civilization remnants. Biggest compliment for what they could do more of, Septimont versus Raguna culture difference. This was an incredible contrast to consume from a world building perspective. This is my own thoughts. The faithful and deeply religious Raguna people living their life in accordance to the church versus the Septimont people living their life to make their, okay, I had a typo there, living their life in accordance to their ancestors' blood being shed through battle, guts, glory, you know, the whole Spartan dynamic. But this was a beautiful contrast that made Arena Sita much more beautiful, honestly. Because when you have contrasting civilizations and cultures, what that's going to do is it's going to bring that structure of that world and actualize it inside of a real, like, you know, story consumption. And I feel like we need a lot more of that in Wuthering Waves. If I were to like put it into words, I have this right here. Raguna and Septimont are a good example of Renacita's best world building because they don't just look different, they feel like different cultures with different relationships to faith, authority, and daily life. That contrast gives Renacita more depth in a single city setting because the player can see how geography and power shaped separate identities. Give me a second because my kids just walked through the door, my beautiful partner, and I'm in the middle of a recording session. I'm gonna close the door. Basically though, that last part, the player can see how geography and power shapes the separate identities. This is how you add more depth to that world building aspect that I'm talking about. And I think we need a lot more of that in Wuwa. There is some elements of it where they've done it throughout the story, but I can't tell you that we need like 10x more of that, right? Not just Septimont and Renacita inside of, Septimont and Raguna inside of Renacita, but in Lahai Roi, we need to start adding and actualizing these world building elements through the history, the culture, and the people. And I feel like they've done a pretty good job with the, what's their name? The people in Lahai Roi. I always forget them. The tribe, the Royan tribe. I feel like they've done a good job with that. That's a good contrast from the people that live in the city and the science space trek collective. But it's always like two groups. And let's be honest, guys, in a society, there's just so many more. There's so much more cultural differences that make that world feel alive. Excuse me if I'm like not articulating myself to the best of my capabilities. As you guys know, I just speak straight off the head. There ain't no fucking script in here, bro. We be yapping easing. But I feel like I'm kind of like conveying to you guys these ideas, these criticisms, and how we can get Wuwa to a much more compelling story, not just through the cinematography and the character that they're selling, but outside of that, the world building, the lore, and building on these concepts over here much more to the point where there's so much depth that people are actually like salivating to make lore content. There's not a lot of lore content creators because I'm gonna be honest, there's not that much lore to really make that kind of content for. If you go and like watch, like I say, if you go watch something like Elden Ring and even Genshin Impact and HSR have a hell of a lot more lore. Now that's going to piss off the tribalism Kuro bots. I don't care. It's just the truth. You could go for days and find some lore in those two titles, and you'd be amazed with how much shit that's happening behind the scenes that you'll never see on the camera. That's kind of just an example off the top of my head, but the point remains: Wuwa's world building is being expanded upon. It's a huge W. It's worth celebrating. Is it going to go anywhere? Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens, right? But the fact that they are hiring people, pouring resources into this is a great thing. The last thing I would say, and I spoke about this on stream yesterday, I would say if they tackle that element, the final element that they need to hire external forces for, is, I would say, character development. Their character development in Wuwa is probably one of the biggest complaints I have about this game's story. Not that it doesn't exist at all, but it's poorly done a lot of the times. And a part of that is because it's a gacha game that has to stick and adhere to a schedule to constantly sell the characters they're delivering to you. That is kind of probably always going to put gacha games in a compromised position of good character development in alignment with pacing. But it can be improved upon, and maybe you should hire some people who specialize in that element of storytelling as opposed to, you know, doing it yourself. That's going to wrap up all my thoughts. You guys comment down below. Let me know what you think. Peace, love, and happiness. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.